weather in Minneapolis. We've got thousands of people protesting in the streets. This is America under Donald Trump. It is exhausting to say the least. But what did Dr. King say, Brock? We all start to die once we're silent about the things that matter. I mean, Brock, it is just ridiculous. Brock and Ellis is here for a closer look with us from the beautiful confines of the upper Hudson River Valley, where it is rather chilly, huh, Brock? We got some weather going on up there.
Yeah, we got Minneapolis weather here. We're in zero with -3 this morning, so we're
You're right there.
yeah.
It's pretty sad that we have to sit here day after day and wonder when Americans are going to finally be fed up. We got Don Lemon going to jail along with three other independent journalists. I was checking out Lemon Live about an hour ago. He had Miles Taylor on with Monique Presley. They were filling in his time slot there. He does Lemon Live every day. And they were raising funds for his legal defense. So, this is all they're trying to do is they're trying to destroy and discredit journalists, mostly journalists of color, because that's all they picked up today. And there's no surprise there.
An independent journalist where it's just really expensive, right? So it's like
Yep.
the resources of the American government against someone who's like us, just gotta, you know, a
Hmm.
website and a camera on their computer, right? Not someone at like CNN or NBC who's got the backing, maybe the corporation. So they did was a
Right.
sort of it seemed like a cherry picked arrests, cherry picked that they're all people of color.
Hmm.
Doesn't seem
No
like that.
surprise.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that's a coincidence. Um, Not necessarily surprised that it's the exact same day of some Epstein files leaking out. So just, if they're going to come out, let's get a big story, big shiny object for the press
Yep.
to focus on instead of those
Yep.
Epstein files, right? Because, the press
Yep.
is, of course, going to, have to report on themselves and, talk First Amendment and the like. So it's all calculated. They're flooding the zone with just more and more activities, but ICE hasn't pulled back at all. So
No.
as much as Tom Homan was sent to Minneapolis supposedly to calm the waters, I mean Trump immediately came out and said there'd be no change. So there's no change to the mission, no change to the number of agents on the street, no change to their weaponry, no change to their mandate, no change to their quotas. And the other story that's trickling around is how much real estate the government is buying up in terms of warehouses as they get ready to just incarcerate more people.
I
I mean,
mean,
I
it
guess this
is
is what they did in Germany as they were building concentration camps because you can't just
right.
put Jews on trains and send them to nowhere, right? There's got to be a
Right.
destination. So now the American government is setting up the destinations. So as the ICE agents hit the quotas, they got places to send them,
Yep.
floors to have them
Um,
sleep on with like those little metallic blankets.
we're the only nation that warehouses people for profit. We're the only one, only industrialized nation warehousing human beings for profit. It's disgusting. It's despicable. It's right out of the Nazi playbook, as you mentioned. And again, I will refer you folks if you are going to Europe anytime soon and get a chance to go to Berlin or get a chance to swing by Auschwitz and see um, these concentration camps. They're used as memorials and museums now, and you'll get to see the sheer magnitude of the number of people and the largesse of these concentration camps. You couldn't see from one end to the other. It was like 5, 6 football fields long at Dachau when we went there. I took my son there to visit. We were on a hockey tour, and all the hockey teams went by to visit. Um, the cells were crude, like they were thrown together. like the government is doing here. But you know, we heard that Donald Trump was a huge Hitler fan. Had a copy of Mein Kampf right on his nightstand. So, you know, the fact that he's putting it into action should not surprise us. Should not surprise us. And we have, you know, a huge section of white America to thank for this. Um, who is so afraid of diversity and losing their, you know, social standing and hierarchy, um, that we couldn't vote for the black woman. I mean, you know, here we are, what, 6 years after Barack Obama? No, 8 years after Barack Obama, right? 9? Yeah, Biden term and a
And a
Trump
Trump
term.
term.
9 years after Barack Obama, and you know, white folks still have 10 times the wealth of African Americans, which is not hard to do when you know you look at the average in Metro Boston is $8 for a black family net worth. Um, so you know, I don't know how much you know a black woman was going to change that, but we know we wouldn't have had you know what is now an authoritarian regime.
Yeah, I mean, she would have changed it to some extent, certainly, right? Because policy matters.
Right.
Yeah, the just the dramatic amount of the tax dollars that are being thrown at this warehousing of people on this ice is just out of control. I mean, I do see some chatter of trying to roll back on the budget, but that doesn't seem to really be where the fight is. Right now, we're just talking about incremental funding of ICE, which is
Right.
why we're basically already in this mess that's hard to get out of, you know,
Right.
and it's hard to get out of with a political solution now, certainly, maybe in a year if we actually have a fair election and a turnover in the legislative branch. Maybe then there can be, you know, a true defunding of ICE and a forcing of a
Oh,
whole different, you know, department. But for the next 10 months, that doesn't do shit. That option doesn't exist. So
no.
we got to do what Minneapolis is doing. Is that they're hitting the streets, right? They're literally just trying to chase ICE out of their city through sheer effort.
And numbers. Brock, thinking about the midterms 10 months away, first of all, I don't know if the country can survive 10 months till we get to the November midterms. Um, just take a look at what happened here in Atlanta. We had the FBI, Tulsi Gabbard, and all the higher ups here in Atlanta at the election warehouse, Fulton County election warehouse, confiscating ballots. Fuck is going on?
Yeah, because they have to concoct a election interference scenario slash scam that
Right.
argues to a massive restriction of the voter rolls, basically kicking Democratic voters off the voter rolls,
The only
so
way they
that
can
they
win.
can win a ultra low turnout election in November because people can't vote. Right? They're going
Yep.
after mail-in voting, but mostly they're just going to go after who's even eligible to vote. So first they have to manufacture the lie to justify the action,
Yep.
and you know that's going to be step one. Step two will be denying the results if they don't pull it off, or maybe
Yep.
anywhere that they don't pull it off. You know, I
Yep.
think because they realize maybe they can't cancel the elections because the states run them, but you know what, they can go in with the feds and they can raid election offices and get access to data.
Which is really, really scary. I mean, you know, and now remember what they asked for in Minnesota, huh? We're ICE, and we'll leave if you give us your voter roll info. I mean, they know they can't win a free and fair election, Brock. That's why I fear, you know, I think they'll come and seize, you know, the voting ballot boxes before they, announce the results.
before they get counted. Yeah, I mean they're gonna
Yeah,
try every trick in the book. They can't. I
yeah,
mean, look at where approval Trump's approval ratings are now. We're just a generic Democrat versus generic Republican now. I think is a +6 for the Democrat, the most it's ever been in the history of that polling. They're seeing the results of all these special elections. They're getting their clock cleaned basically everywhere.
yeah,
No one's seat is safe.
yeah,
They're they're seeing the town halls, even in the ruby reddest of districts, where 6 months ago it was the farmers going nuts about some judicial overreach, and now it's all about ICE. But they've riled up the American people enough where they know the votes are against them. I
right.
just wish the American people were riled up enough to take more aggressive action on a day-to-day basis and do what Minneapolis is doing, which
Yeah,
is boycotting, walkouts, and just a constant confrontation of ICE as well as general protesting.
right. Yeah, riddle me this, Batman. Why is JD Vance in Minneapolis? He doesn't have the kind of charisma that we are normally associating with that position. We've had some amazing vice presidents in our time. He's not one of them.
Not on the
Um,
Republican side. I mean, Pence and Dan Quayle and
oh,
I mean, I guess Dick Cheney had a certain allure to at least a certain
a
portion
certain
of the
kind of
American
Republican.
public. He's an evil genius. At least you could give him evil genius status.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I hear you. Vance is like one of the worst spokesmen they have on the MAGA side, but
Yeah.
they keep throwing him out there. I mean, they just who else they have to go to though? I mean,
They got nothing.
it's the lesser of all evils, right? There's no one they
Right.
can send out there who, what do they send Miller out there, Holman, Christine Noem, you just go up and down the list. I mean, I
Yeah.
was surprised we had a Tulsi Gabbard sighting down in Georgia, but only
Yeah.
that only tells me they're going to try to concoct an international election interference lie for
Yep.
2020, right? They're going to
Right.
rope in someone, you know
Right.
not Russia,
And
but
that's
someone else is having tapped into voting, machines, or who knows it's how outlandish it's going to be. It almost doesn't matter how outlandish it is; they're going with it.
yeah. Yeah. And that's the scary part. You know, and the other sad part is, like I mentioned to you before, I thought we had levers of government that wouldn't allow this kind of thing to happen, that wouldn't allow people to run roughshod over the law or institutional norms. Um, the law makers, in fact, are the law breakers right now. So who do we call? Like, I mean,
There's
they're
no
out,
one to turn
out
to.
here.
But I mean,
Yeah,
isn't it kind of almost comical that the reason that we don't have a budget continuation passed right now is because Lindsey Graham is holding out so that he can have the option to sue the government because they accessed his phone records as part of the Jack Smith's investigation. So he's literally holding up the 4 out of the 5 pieces of the budget that everyone agreed on, where they
right.
carved out the ICE funding and kicked the can down the road for 2 weeks. But Lindsey Graham's throwing a monkey wrench in the whole thing. It's like just once again toxic selfishness. Lindsey Graham literally is holding up the entire American, government system for
Yep.
his little beef. And
Right.
that's where we are at in terms of the leadership that we have in this country up and down
Well,
the
that's
line.
what I was going to say. Yeah. She is, emblematic of our leadership right now. And, she's probably going to hold firm until she gets a call from Donald Trump. And then, Lindsay, the little sweet Southern petite little doll that she is, will then finally acquiesce when Donald Trump calls her and gives her the
Yeah,
veto
he'll
muscle.
pull back from this because
Yeah,
because he's gonna hurt Trump, right? Yeah, Trump's
right.
gonna lay down the hammer on him
Yeah,
eventually. But I do want to segue talk the Don Lemon thing for a second, right?
Yeah.
because it's obviously a targeted arrest. It's obviously intimidation. It's racist, and it's trying to scare off future journalists from doing things that will rile up this administration.
Yep.
But the other thing that it leads me to, because it's for people of color, is my constant drumbeat of the fact that Black America is going to have to join the protests because this government is coming for you as a black man. Eventually, they're certainly coming for me as a Jewish person. Eventually, they're going to be coming for all of us. It's just in what
Right.
order. But
Right.
the Haitians in Ohio are next. The Somalis in Minnesota. The Haitians in Ohio are targeted next. I guess like February 4th or so is the day that some of their amnesty runs out. Um, that's going to be another community of color that's going to get raided. So
Well, and here's the good thing.
I think it's gonna accelerate the time frame of when Black America joins the protests because
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you saw what happened in Brooklyn when they went into some Haitian communities there. They got a little bit more than they bargained for. And I don't think that was just Haitians. So, yeah, I hear you. Columbus, Ohio, that area, I believe is where they're focused on, where they're eating the cats and dogs. I
yeah, I
believe
think it's
where they're
Columbus is
going.
a big target area. Yeah,
Yeah. You have lots of African Americans. You also have a good sized university there with a sizable African American population in Ohio State University. So, we may see students next, you know, running into the dagger that is ICE. And, you know, God help Donald Trump if some student is murdered, in a peaceful protest. Um, God help him. God help this asshole anyway, right? Because he is the worst among us, right? And that's what they're supposed to be cleaning out of this country, right? Is what they said. Um, but Donald Trump is a bully. He's uneducated. He's not well read. He doesn't have any of the things. He has no empathy, no compassion. He doesn't have any of the things that we look for in American leadership. And that's why he wasn't a good businessman, right? Now, did you hear his comments on Los Angeles? Right? Because they're holding up the $40 billion to rebuild all those homes that were,
maybe he
you
wants
know,
to hold out the permits or something.
yeah, well, he doesn't want any low income housing built, right? Because you know what that's code for,
Mm-hmm.
right? Black and brown, right? So you don't build low income housing there. I've built lots of low income housing, but I wouldn't put it there. You know what he's saying right
Yeah, of
there.
course we know what I'm saying. Look, he's a horrendous human being. Look at what just came out on the trickle of information of the Epstein files that came out today. Some of which that have already been pulled offline because I think the DOJ realized they made a
Yeah.
mistake because people picked up on it, right? Stories of Trump auctioning off underage women at parties in Mar-a-Lago, like auctioning off, like it actually even gets worse where he's like touching them as a part of like the auction itself. Multiple allegations of rape of Trump.
Right.
This is in the Epstein file that they're redacting to try to
Right.
protect him, to try to
Right.
pretend like they're releasing it but protecting him. But they're so inefficient and so incompetent that they're leaking out shit that incriminates Trump. And then as soon as they notice that someone picked up on it, they're pulling it back. Right? But
Yeah.
he's a horrendous human being. Just you you can't make up decades of stories like this, right?
Yeah.
Like people would have to have spent their whole lives and colluded, even though they don't know each other, to do it. Like this is not coincidence. He's a
Right.
horrendous human being. Somehow we gave him the levers of power to run our country. It's a sad commentary on who we are as a people. So we
Right.
should be doing a little, some serious self-reflection. But while we're acting. You know, we can't just sit around and
Right.
self-reflect. I mean, we gotta be fucking acting and doing shit and confronting and embarrassing and trying to convince more and more of our fellow citizens that he's
They're
a
out there.
horrendous human being and what they're doing is un-American. Arresting Don Lemon and three other black journalists for some covering an event at a church is not illegal and it's un-American.
Yep.
ICE
Yep.
mass Gestapo on the
Faces.
streets is un-American. Like this is not befitting of the country that we certainly aspire to be, but it's who we are right now because we haven't fixed it yet.
Right. Um, Brock, getting back to your point about getting Black America out on the protest lines, I agree with you. Arresting independent journalists of color should spur the moment, um, should spur our community to action. Um, but again, this entire ordeal reminds us of how differently how different the African American experience is in America, right? Like, people were mortified when we lost these two amazing human beings and Alex Preddy and Renee Good. Um, but it was a much higher level of mortification than we've ever seen before for the loss of any African American. I mean, remember the numerous excuses for why police must have shot and killed him. Well, he must have done something. Why didn't they just comply? Trayvon Martin, he must have been beating George Zimmerman's ass. We heard George Zimmerman. I mean, it's a totally different experience, and it's maddening for Black America to watch this now, because here we are. Here's America fighting for everyone brown except us, right? This fight is on behalf of our immigrant brothers and sisters who have come to this country in search of a better life. It is not necessarily a fight for the upliftment of African Americans who were stolen from their land, might I remind you, stolen from their culture, stolen from their roots and history, and resettled against their will. And we still can't find a rightful place in America.
True, but it's a step in the right direction. Because if white people are out there for immigrants of color, that's a step towards a bigger understanding, a more empathetic viewpoint of the world, and a more of an embracing an America that is multiracial and multicultural.
Right.
Yeah, if I were sitting in your shoes as a black person who's been here the whole time, right? Like, hey, what about fucking us? Been here for generations, built the whole fucking place. Oh yeah, you're
Right.
out there for the immigrant who's like just got amnesty 3 weeks ago and is trying to make a life in America now.
Yep.
But you haven't been for me the whole time. So obviously I get that frustration and that anger, but I still view it as a positive that and of course white America has been triggered and angered by watching white Americans get killed. And that's got to be frustrating. Oh yeah, they get mad when it's their own, but like when it was one of ours. Although George Floyd did bring out a lot of white people. So
Sure.
at least we know it's
We know there's a
possible.
conscience. Right.
It's the potential is there. So it's still to view this as a step in the right direction. So I'm looking at the directionally positive angle of that. But there's so much real estate that needs to be made up for, so much atonement that has to be done, so much soul searching, and so many improvements that have to be made, not only in American society, but in the actual codified as laws, and and not just let things sit in the gray area, and not just as laws, but laws that are then enforced equally. Because we all
Yeah.
know the law doesn't matter. 55 miles an hour. Hey, I'm zipping down the road at 74 and I just get a head nod from the policeman and the black guy
Right.
going 57 gets pulled over. You know,
Yep. Yep.
that doesn't matter that the law says 55 if that's not the way it's enforced. So, a tighter on the enforcement. Maybe
Yep.
we can get there. Minneapolis is showing a lot, Mark. They just haven't stopped. They're just
Yep.
out there again and again. Um, they've done enough. They've shaken up the Congress. They've, put the funding of ICE, the tactics of ICE, really every element of ICE on the front pages of newspapers and in the headlines of even the shitty right wing, eyes closed media. It's broken
Yep.
through. It's,
Yep.
Trump's on his back foot on this one. He's trying to play tough guy, but he's playing tough guy against hundreds of millions of Americans who don't want to hear it. And certainly he's not taking questions from the press. He's ducking it.
Hell
He's
no.
watched those town halls. He watched Tom Swazi get his fucking head handed to him. He watched Hageman in
Sure.
West Virginia have to, in Wyoming, sneak out the
Wyoming.
back of her own town hall. Right? She just left. She just walked out the back door. Couldn't take it
Yep.
anymore. Right? She lasted like 5 minutes. So
The pressure is there.
the
It has
pressure's
to be
there.
sustained. We can't quit. And again, we need to get to DC, gum up the works, and we need to make him declare martial law. So that will be the straw that broke the camel's back. When we all get to DC, when we surround whatever location he's at, be it the Capitol, be it 1600 Pennsylvania, we need to surround it, keep the government from business as usual, shut that shit down for a few days, make him declare martial law. Let's have the battle. Fuck it. You want to shoot unarmed Americans? I'm sure there'll be plenty of press there to detail it and to memorialize it. And we'll go from there. But there will have to be some sacrifice. I think you're right. I think Black Americans are going to say we've sacrificed enough. Enough of us have been lynched, shot, mutilated, burned. Abner Louimud, you know, throughout the course of history. But it looks like we're going to have to be out there again to have the kind of numbers that we're going to need.
Yeah, they got to be overwhelming. Because
Yeah.
I've been arguing. You may even see on the chat board saying like, white people are fighting white supremacy right now, but
Right.
in the white on white fight, it's kind of sadly maybe a 50-50. Maybe it's a 60-40. I hope it's a 60-40 in
Please, God.
anti-white supremacy. But you saw how whites voted for Trump, so
Right.
maybe some of them have stepped away from that. But to get the overwhelming numbers and really tip the scales is you throw all people of color onto the sane white America side. Now it really makes that white supremacy group look really, really small. No
Right.
Kings has lobbed out March 28th as a date for protest. It's 2 months away, which feels like a fucking 10 lifetimes.
Eternity,
But it also
right.
gives a lot of, they're probably waiting for the weather, probably gives a
Yeah.
lot of time for people to make a plan and really think about whether they're going to be participating. And I know for white America, I think it'll be an embarrassment if you're not out there after
Yeah.
watching what Minneapolis did and all the shit
Right.
will go on in the next couple of months. Like, there's no,
Right.
how can you justify not being a part of it? But like you said, I want to start channeling this, if that's a date that's thrown on the calendar, channeling it towards a massive DC rally. There could
Right.
be hundreds of protests across the country. That's great. I get it. If you're in Boise, Idaho, you're in, whatever, San Antonio, Texas, maybe you can't make it to DC. Get it.
Right.
Go do a protest in your city. But there's plenty of us with 2 months to work with for there to be massive numbers in DC.
Make a plan and get there. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, buddy, you got a quick hit for me? Take us into the weekend.
Quick hit for you. First of all, you see what Texas A&M's doing? They're literally getting rid of like their women's studies program, and they've already fired um, a bunch of professors who were talking about race, and like just gets me back to I really wish athletes would stop going to these schools that are literally like becoming these little white supremacy bastions. So
Yep.
like Texas A&M, it's fucking big SEC school. Like that's in the heart of all like I mean, they want all these black athletes, right? They want to have great women's teams as well, but like they're carving like they treat them like shit basically. You're second
Yeah.
class citizens, but we want you to come in here and make a ton of money for us. So
Yeah.
that's my beef du jour. But in today's quiz, a I can't even read my own hand. A scowling void of nothingness.
A scowling
A
void of
scowling
nothingness.
void of nothingness. If this was Jeopardy, what is
Donald Trump.
my favorite review of Melania's movie?
Oh gosh, that is awesome.
Opens tomorrow. A scowling void of nothingness.
I mean, that's what she is. She's, she's a bigger imposter than Trump is. Um, and hold it. Remember, Brock, you just mentioned the Amazon layoffs yesterday, 16,000, right? Where do you think that $70 million that Bezos gave Melania and Brett Ratner for this fucking film, right, could have gone, right? And you're laying off 16,000 people. Meanwhile, you're financing a scowling void of nothingness.
People
40
get
million for marketing, 30 million for production. What the
America has to get off its Amazon addiction. Cancel
exactly?
Prime, figure out how to buy shit a different way. You don't
Yep.
have to support Jeff Bezos and him turning around and fucking
Lunacy.
basically throwing a bribe to Melania so that Trump will take care of his fucking businesses and let him build more data centers so he can, enrich himself even that much more. And let's remember his little Ring cameras that everyone has on their door that he bought. They're
The
now sharing
recognition.
all that information with ICE. Like
Yep.
Bezos ain't on your side.
He ain't on our side. Nope. Nope.
What do you got for
All
me?
right. I got for you a segment from Read the Room. Minnesota Vikings have fired their general manager. Let me tell you his name first, and then you guess the ethnicity. Kwesi Adolfo Menza. Okay? Man of African descent. During ICE protests ad nausea, you fire the one black guy in the front office. Wow. Read the fucking room, Minnesota Vikings.
Huh.
I mean, how pathetic. I don't understand. Well, I do understand. I just wonder, how you make those decisions without looking out your. All they had to do was look out the window. Just look out the window. Turn your body and look out the window, and see the thousands of people protesting the injustices done to people of color. And really, you can't live with Adolfo Menza for another season? I
Shit, they
mean,
couldn't
what are
even
you
get through the
doing?
Super Bowl. I couldn't even get through the 2 weeks of headed
All
into the Super
right,
Bowl.
right? I
Wow.
mean, come on. I know you didn't have the greatest season. You're in a tough division this year with, the Packers, Bears, and Lions. You let your quarterback go. The quarterback they let go, by the way, where's he going next week?
Super Bowl.
You can find him in the Super Bowl,
What
right?
while we're on the NFL, my favorite racist organization, a lot of coaching changes in the offseason. How many
Hmm.
how many black coaches got hired
So far, none, I
in the
believe.
NFL? Oh, what do you know? None. So Tomlin's
Yep.
out, and the guy in Miami,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Mixed race, right? I think he's
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
and no new black coaches got hired. But I wonder how many of the teams followed the quote Rooney Rule and actually interviewed black candidates. Didn't hear an inkling about that. That's out the fucking window, right? They don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that was always seen as, just,
A
I mean, in my
fraud.
estimate.
That was
Yeah.
window dressing. That was fake
Yeah.
DEI. That was like putting racism in the end zones, right? That was
Yeah. That was like, please don't bother us. We've got this program in
yeah.
place. So a lot of guys felt like the interviews that they were getting were just, lip service.
Check the box.
So
Yep.
yeah, just check the box. Um, so yeah. Another racist organization who was able to keep ICE away from the Super Bowl because 32 billionaires out of the 83 running this country said, please stay away. You're going to cost us a bunch of dough. And we need to help cover, some of the small market teams who aren't exactly bringing in the dough like the Cowboys, Steelers, and the Bears and some of these other, you know, um, legacy franchises. Fuck.
Frustrating. All right. Well, let's see
All
overnight.
right, bro.
Let's see how long Lindsey Graham holds out with this one little, you know.
Yeah, well, she can be a
little quick-
tough little cookie
Let's see.
sometimes.
Let's see if he gets the hammer comes down on Lindsey Graham or not. Otherwise, we got ourselves a government shutdown.
Government
So,
shutdown at midnight.
okay,
Yeah, well,
let it let it
yeah,
shut
Lindsay, she might taco and chicken out at the last minute there once Trump calls. It won't go past the weekend. She won't last that long, so she'll give in. So remember how she was done with it after January 6th, the night of
down.
January 6th, she was on the floor,
Yep. That
and
one,
she
one
screamed,
speech. One speech.
"Yeah, I'm out. That's it for me." And she was back in the following day, running down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring. So, we never know what she's gonna do. So,
Not much
good luck
faith
with her.
there.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
All
Have
right,
a great
Marco, it was
night.
a pleasure.
Check
Talk
you
to you
tomorrow.
tomorrow. Stay safe down there.
Yes, sir.